It's really cold in New York, so I'm gonna film next to this radiator to try to keep warm. Climate change can be really overwhelming, especially when I'm really plugged in and I'm trying to follow the waterfall of news and science every day. As each new paper on ocean temperature increases or ice sheet loss or UN report is published, this sense of doom and hopelessness kind of settles on my brain like a heavy layer of dust. A lot of the things I do start to feel really tiny and minuscule, and like it's silly to even pretend that something I did would have any measurable impact on global climate. A few years ago, I started hearing this referred to as eco-anxiety, and I really wanted to explore that further, so I invited Dr. Ali Matu, who runs the Psych Show and also happens to be a clinical psychologist, over for a chat. Okay, so let's start big picture, shall we? What is eco-anxiety?
It's really about fear and hopelessness about what's happening related to the climate, how that's going to impact you, how that's going to impact your family, your friends, and generations to come. I think what elevates it from normal fears and stress that we might all have about our planet to something that's like much more about anxiety is that hopelessness, feeling kind of stuck in your worries and not knowing what to do, or feeling like there's nothing that you can do.
I've also heard eco-anxiety referred to as climate anxiety, climate change distress, ecological grief, among other permutations. But they're all basically getting at the same idea of distress, worry, and hopelessness connected to your global or local environment.
So there's no real psychiatric definition for eco-anxiety. It's not considered to be any type of disorder, but it is a new term that's come up to classify a lot of these type of fears. And it's probably most similar to something like generalized anxiety disorder, where we have a number of different worries about events in our life, day-to-day things that we have to do. And a lot of these worries keep us from making decisions.
Even though eco-anxiety isn't an official diagnosis, it's worth exploring for several reasons. The hopelessness and worry associated with eco-anxiety can stop us from doing the, yes, hard, but incredibly necessary work of reducing fossil fuel use and preparing for the consequences of climate change. But it's pretty easy to argue that we should be more worried about climate change. The impacts we're already seeing are devastating.
Well, that's a funny thing about climate anxiety is in some cases we want people to be more anxious about it. It's always hard when it comes to public health and preparedness and emergency responses to get people anxious. It's a really difficult thing to do because we are really wired to respond to what's happening right now, not what's going to happen 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10, 20 years down the road. When there's like a blizzard coming or a tornado, or there's danger of fires or drought or all of that kind of stuff, but it's down the road, it's not immediate, it's really hard to get people anxious. And we want people to get anxious so they prepare and they act on it.
Climate or eco-anxiety is associated with the very real trauma experienced by people living on the front lines of climate change, like individuals living in areas with poor air quality or in the path of hurricanes or experiencing extreme heat events with limited access to air conditioning.
People might not think of it as eco-anxiety, but people who are in Michigan and didn't have access to clean water had a lot of anxiety related to their environment. Anything that happens in the environment tends to impact our most vulnerable populations the most. So definitely kids, women who are pregnant, the elderly, people who live in parts of cities and towns that might have lower real estate value, people who don't have the means to be able to easily move or just go away for the weekend. It's those type of communities that are hardest hit by natural disasters or by changes in water supply or by drought or extreme heat or extreme cold. People in those communities might not label it as eco-anxiety, but you bet they're experiencing higher rates of anxiety, of hopelessness, of PTSD. We saw that with Hurricane Katrina. Years down the road, we'll probably see that with Puerto Rico.
But what can we do about this for people who are experiencing it, or if you're experiencing eco-anxiety yourself?
Yeah, so you're not alone. That's normal. It's healthy. The thing to know is, what do we do about it? Sometimes people struggle with worries and there's nothing you can do about it. You turned in your paper, the professor is going to grade it, the teacher is going to grade it. There's nothing left to do, and then it's more about acceptance skills. But that's not where we are with climate change and the environment. There's a lot that we can do. Number one is definitely having some type of disaster preparedness kit, and that's for whatever you are likely to experience in your environment. And so we're here in New York City, so we might get a superstorm. If something hits New York, subways are down, tunnels are closed, bridges are closed, so we might be stuck in this environment for a long time. Or if you're in an area that might be prone to a fire, or if you're in an area that's prone to tornado, hurricane, things like that, what do you need to have ready in your home, and include things that are going to help you to emotionally cope. So a lot of us use music or apps or things like that help us to emotionally cope. Like maybe you go on YouTube and you watch a funny Ellen video where she's like pranking someone, and that like cheers you up. But if internet is down, if power is down, what's a version of that you can have with you to help you cope? Is it going to be like a book? Is it going to be some kind of like board game? Is it going to be printed out photos of loved ones, of family, of things like that? So have some type of kit, but that also includes an emotional element to help you cope with the intense emotions that you might experience. And then number two, it's also about having a plan with your family, with your loved ones, and something that is going to get you connected also with your local community. So when Hurricane Sandy hit here, if you were below a certain part of Manhattan, you did not have power, and you might not have access to water too. What we saw happen over there is a lot of people who were in lower Manhattan were connecting with friends and family that were more uptown and did have power. So when it comes to any type of climate related disaster, being able to connect to your larger community is critical, absolutely critical, just in terms of being able to get access to a safe shelter, being able to get access to power, to water, to things like that. So it's not something you can do alone. No way. And the other thing is to definitely talk to people about all of this, and to talk to people about your fears, about your concerns. There's more research coming out now about how there are network effects, where if you talk to someone you work with, you talk to someone you go to school with, how that actually impacts the whole network of people that you're connected to. So this is a real tangible difference that you can make, and it's actually critical to any type of preparation and policy change, is actually just having these conversations, because they do have ripple effects in your social network and everyone you're connected to.
Climate change is really scary, and it's probably just going to keep getting scarier unless something extremely dramatic happens right now. But there are a lot of reasons to stay hopeful.
I have a lot of hope and optimism about all of this. What I'm constantly reminded about is, if you look at our evolutionary history, the greatest period of growth of the frontal lobe, of the part of the brain that is helped us become this species who we are, the most advanced part of our brain, the greatest period of development there happened during a period of massive climate change on our planet. And I think being able to cope and adapt to environments is so inherent in who we are as a species. We live all over the planet, and it's probably because of massive climate change that we are the species who we are. But now we're much more of an interdependent global community, where one thing in one part of the world does impact something in another part of the world, and we're just not wired to be able to negotiate those type of social situations. That's really hard for us. It's really, really hard to scale up the type of helping behavior and community support that is so a part of our DNA. This is the challenge for our generation, for the next generation, for the generation after that, is how do we overcome our tribalism and tap into that ability to adapt to change at a global level.
And that feels to me like a pretty great way to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to Ali for stopping by my channel. I cannot thank him enough for all the insight and ideas that he gave to me and his help in making this video. We had a conversation that was almost an hour long that I've kind of quickly edited together and is now available to patrons at any level over on my Patreon. So if you're interested in watching that, click the links on screen or down in the description. And if you want to watch more of Ali, which I highly recommend you do, go over and subscribe to The Psych Show. I recommend starting with his video, Why I Give Psychology Away. Awesome, I think I got everything. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but go watch Ali, subscribe to my channel, like, comment, I'll be hanging out down there, and I hope that you have a great day.